Hello and welcome to the video, Printing W-2 Forms on a macOS computer. This video will cover the setup of CDM Plus for printing W-2 forms, as well as the process for printing those forms in the Atrix Forms Viewer. The first thing we want to review is Payor Records. So we go to Program, Payroll, and we come down to Payor Records. Now the Payor Records window is open and we want to see what Payor Records we have. So we're going to click on All, and that lists the one that we've created. It's called First Community Church. And what we want to do is look at the information down here. Right above the red line, you're going to see two fields, description and federal ID number. And you want to make sure your federal ID number is correct. And you want to have a description that is unique. This is especially important if you have more than one Payor record so that you can differentiate the two when you're looking at your different Payor records. Below the red line, you have company, contact, and state information. Here you want to go through the items that have asterisks because these are required. You want to make sure that all the information is correct and thoroughly filled out. Below the email field, you'll see a 941 depositor frequency. If you're a Schedule B depositor, you'll want to select semi-weekly. We're not, so we're going to keep this at monthly. With that information verified, we move over to the right-hand side under the state information. And you want to make sure that you have your state and your state account number correctly entered into this field. In addition, if you have more than one state that you have to report to, you want to make sure that you enter all the different states right here. With that information all verified, we close this window. And now we'll go to the Deduction Setup Records window. So we go to Payroll, Deduction Setup Records. In this window, there are two items that we want to review. One is a 403B contribution, and another is local tax. What we want to do is show you the area that you need to review here to ensure that these types of deductions will populate on your W-2 forms. So for a local tax, like this Clark County tax, we want to make sure that we have tax form, account number, and local type filled out properly. So if we click on Change, you can see that under Tax Form dropdown, you have a few items here for Kentucky. This is a local withholding, so we're going to leave it with that selection. We want to make sure that we have the correct account number and that the local type is correctly set. In our case, this is a county income tax, so we're going to leave it with county income. When you're certain that this information is okay, you can click Save. And now let's look at the 403B contribution, which is a Roth contribution. Here, the field that we're interested in is this W-2 field. And so we click on Change. And if you click on the drop-down, you see you have a lot of different choices for W-2 box 12. In our case, like I said, this is a Roth contribution. So we need to use code BB. If you have a non-Roth contribution, you need to use the appropriate code in this box. With that set, your Deduction Setup Records review is complete. So we'll click Save. And the final window we want to review will be the Employee Records window. So we go to Payroll, Employee Records, and this brings up your employee records. The areas that we're going to review here will be the Employee Info tab, the Setup tab, and the Pay items. On the Employee Info record, you want to ensure that you have the proper Payor record selected, and all of this information on this record is correct because it will be exported out of CDM Plus and imported into Atrix, and so you want to make sure this information is correct. Next up is the Setup tab. Here we want to make sure our tax table codes are set properly. If an employee has been contributing to a retirement plan, you'll want to make sure that this checkbox here for retirement plan is checked. So I believe I have, yes, here is Samantha Elliott. She's contributing to a retirement plan, so we have that checked. Also, if you have employees who have elected to receive an electronic W-2 only, then you want to make sure that this is checked. This is an elective, and you want to make sure that you get the proper authorization forms approved by the employee before you go through and print out your, and before you go through preparing your W-2s. And finally, we want to look under the Pay Items tab, and we want to look at the housing allowance. Here, we want to make sure that our W-2 line is set for W-2 box 14 Other, and that we have a W-2 description for housing. You want to make sure this is consistent across all of your employees who receive a housing allowance, and you want to make sure this is set for all of the employees that receive the housing allowance. This is important because you want to make sure this comes over properly into the Atrix Forms Viewer. Well, with that information reviewed, we are done looking at the different windows within CDM Plus, and we can go and print our W-2s. So we come to Reports, Payroll Reports, and we'll come down to Payroll Tax Forms. Here we want to make sure that we have the appropriate payer selected and that we have federal selected here because we want to print our federal W-2s. We'll come down under the forms and select the W-2, W-3, and we'll enter 2019 in the year field. Now click Show Form. This opens the Atrix Forms Viewer, and you see that we get a sheet that comes down that gives us a little bit of an outline of the process, and you'll want to make sure you read this. In addition, there's a little status window that opens that says that we're on step 1. Okay. So to begin your review process, you want to click OK. And let's just look at this toolbar so you understand what you want to do. On the left side are the process and print buttons. We'll get to those in a second. Next to that is you have your next stage and previous stage, and that will take you through the different verification steps that you'll see over in this little status window. And then you have these buttons for zooming in and zooming out of this form. And then the final icons are next page and previous. These are important because in the review process, you'll want to go and review each page of your W-2s. And you do so by just clicking Next Page. As you move through these, you want to verify that all of your Social Security numbers, all the numbers, all your addresses are correct. And when you are through that, you click on Next Stage. And if Atrix finds any problems with anything, it will bring up a warning so that you can go back and verify the information again. So far we haven't got a warning, so we'll click on Next Step, Next Stage again. And again, one more. And now we're on the 7th and final step, and so we'll click that. So all required steps are complete, and so now we want to click on Next Step. This is a sheet that just says, hey, you've got one more opportunity before you go print. Do you want to go back? And if you do, you click on Double Check, or you click on Agree. We're going to click on Agree, and now you see the Process button is now active. It says here the final step is to click the process button to print and or e-file your W-2s. So we're going to click on process, and it asks us how we want to process these. So we have different e-filing options here. These you can try out, and if you want to e-file, you can select any one of those. We're not going to be going over the e-filing process. We're going to go over the print your own. So we'll select that. And over on the right side, you see what is going to print. And so we'll click on continue. And now it comes up ready to print your employer records copy. And so in this particular case, it says you're going to print 4 employees per page, and you do not need red paper for any of these. So you can just print on plain paper. So you click print. And when that comes up, and then you click print to print your actual W-2. In this video, I'm just going to click cancel and move forward through the process. So now that our copies are printed, we'll go to the next. So this brings up the print Federal Social Security Administration copies. So we'll click on print, and we click print, and then we move forward and click next. Now we'll print our state copies, and we click print again. And once again, we would click print, and then click next once your copies are printed. The next group of W-2s to print are your employee copies. So you click on print, and there's 14 copies, 14 employees. We click on print, and then click next step. Now this is the SSA notice. So we print that, and then click next. And this brings us to the federal W-3. And so we'll click print. And when we do, it comes up and says we need some additional information. And so what you want to make sure you fill out is the kind of payer you are. You're a 941. And kind of employer is a 501c non-government. Now, if you're not those types of payer or employer, you need to put the appropriate one. But for most of our users, they will be 941, 501c non-government. And so we click continue. And now we can print our W-3. And we get a done button. So we click done. And it comes up again, and we'll click done again. And now we have completed the process of printing our W-2s. This is an easy process, and if you have any problems whatsoever while you're going through this process, you can always give our support lines a call at 1-800-633-9581. I hope this video has been helpful, and we will see you soon.